Hi everyone. Thank you for joining our SARS group today. What we're discussing is racial esteem as it pertains to Blackness and our personal struggles or, journeys with racial esteem. And then also addressing the root of validating Africa. We can't be saying Black Lives Matter and Africa is nowhere in the conversation, because actually Africa is at the root of white supremacy and everything else that we're only discussing the symptoms of.
Yeah, in terms of back home, I feel that there is also a lack of education in terms of global issues that other, for example, diaspora and other Black people are facing. The same way that people in diaspora and African Americans aren't connected to African issues, is the same way people in the homeland and the motherland aren't connected to stuff and sufferings that we are experiencing on the other side. As Debbie rightly said, that they think that over here the UK and the US is just a land of gold and a land of opportunities. No, it's pretty much, it's almost even harder for us to make it here than it would be at home. Like we're fighting a battle on every front, back home, abroad, everywhere. So I feel that as much as we're trying to, fight our own battles here, that the people back home, they also need to, weigh in on the situation. And also the issue of self-hate and colorism in African countries it's a stronghold that needs to be broken. For example, the Somalians, it plays a major factor because they, as well as they're not thinking that they're not Africans, they also berate and pretty much they're racist to other African countries. Like if you go on Twitter and you see the way, like there's this Somalian girl, she's a Instagram influencer, and she was having a child. I think she had just announced that she was pregnant, and I think they had found out that the boyfriend, the father, sorry, wasn't Somalian. I think he was Nigerian. And the amount of hate that came online, like hurling abuse at the girl, like a pregnant woman for that matter, they were hurling abuse at her, saying that, like sending deference to the unborn child, sending deference to her, to the point where she had to come in and she was like, she thanks God that she didn't go to bed with one of her own because they're disgusting. Because I don't know how you, as an African person, you can berate someone else that's African, like. And for me, that's why that whole within where you represent your country but you don't represent the continent, I think that it subconsciously causes a divide. I personally think because once you start just focusing on your country, then we have the problem that Black Americans have, where it's every man for himself. You don't care what suffering the next man is going. That causes such a divide, which we do not need at this time. When we're fighting against so many things going on at work, we're fighting against almost every form of discrimination. The Black community is fighting, literally, from misogyny down to self-hate. There's literally nothing that we're not fighting. You know what I mean? So I think, fair enough, you can rep for your country, but at the back of that, you need to know that you're also representing the whole continent as well. Just to go on Ellie's point, I think she mentioned it about toying in America. That story, man. And what Ellie was saying, the way he was tweeting, he said that toying a Nigerian immigrant, and he put immigrant in caps. He was like, toying a Nigerian immigrant was raped by a Ghanaian immigrant, and it was so clear cut that he was disassociating Jesus himself from the issue, which is what a lot of Black Americans do. They don't associate themselves with any African problems. And whether she's an immigrant or not, cool. She's still the same color as you. Is she not Black? Like what is going on? And I just think that just goes to show the extent of damage that colonization, slavery, miseducation, and the lack of education has done to the Black American population. They have gone over years of being systematically chopped away from their heritage. So as Penman said, like sometimes you can't even blame them because they've been thrown so far away from the bucket, they can't even see what like anything else is in the room. You know what I mean? And yes, the belittling of African heritage, I think Debbie touched on it in terms of the like cultural attire, etc. That is, especially in American, as I said, American black pop culture is a very big percent globally, and the way that African stuff is portrayed in their movies is almost a slap in the face because one, if they are portraying it, they usually get it wrong. So you would have someone from Ethiopia wearing a full-on agbada with kente cloth, and it's like, no, you don't just merge all the cultures together.
Right.
And my thing is that they're so good at efficiently executing European culture. Oh God forbid they get a Holocaust movie wrong. My guys aren't idiots. Some of these directors are big people. You can do your research. It doesn't, like, Google is free. You know what I mean? The only thing that you're paying for is broadband. You can really go online and type in Nigerian attire. And also, sorry, with African education, this is my last point. If the African educational system, I think, is beautiful because it forces you to be smarter. And unfortunately, if you're not, but then again, in Africa, well, in Nigeria, should I say, even if you're not educationally smart, you're street smart. You're still street smart, and that street smartness it gives you like a hustle mentality. So you're not just sitting about idle waiting on benefits from the government.
I can't remember, you know. Sorry, it's literally just
Was it from? It was when John mentioned Tariq Nasheed. That's when I think your mate went up.
Thank you. Yes, that one. Okay, that man is the best example of performative African identity, because when it suits him, he is that hat that the Ghanaians wear, and he is daishiki'd up because he is using it as a costume. And we around the globe, we allow because we are so starved of seeing African identity embraced, we allow people to perform it as and when they please. And when we say anything about it, you see a really, how dare you tell me how to wear this? Do you even know how to sort of perform your culture properly? And it's like, I get that we are all at different stages of our journey when it comes to racial esteem, but allowing for wolves in sheep's clothing is something that we cannot allow. That has been one of the biggest things that have held us back, is this sort of, these people who know what the community wants to hear, and they know what to wear, they know what to say. And even the other charlatan, what's his name, Umar Johnson, with as soon as it suits him, he wants to bring up polygamy, who dip into African identity as soon as it suits some part of the narrative that they're trying to weave. But when you really look at who it serves, it's very self-serving. So even the thing where I've heard some people talk about polygamy being an African thing, and why do you need a white man's paper to marry and things, it's like, actually, if you really want to look at polygamy and how that was practiced in Africa, most of you are not in the price range for polygamy, because you would have to provide a home and education for the wives, their kids, a compound for each one. You don't meet the financial requirements, so just sit down, because and that's the thing that annoys me when it comes to people claiming African when it suits them, but the way they talk about it is in the same sort of primitive terms as any sort of European archaeologist who's sort of acting as if you just come across pig scratchings. Where I remember for the course I'm on, we went into the British Museum, which I hate, and they put all the African sort of artifacts and everything in the basement level. Apart from the Egyptian stuff, that was all front and center, but all of the things that were sub-Saharan African in the basement. And there's this gate that they ripped off a palace in Benin when they raided it. And when I say this gate is the most beautiful thing. It is the most intricate, intelligent piece of anything I have ever seen in my life. Like the fact that people were doing this before you had like machines to do this. Like it takes such a high level of intelligence, artistry, and everything to be able to do that. And if you were to put it on the right flooring, you would not be able to sell the message to people that sub-Saharan Africans are intellectually inferior, because how are we doing this on our gates when you were still, let me know. But yes, it's important for people to get their sense of identity from the source, not from these charlatans who wear costume and I want to tell you what Africa is about. They're liars.
Definitely, I agree. Helena?
Yeah, that was deep. That was so profound. I mean, I've been to the British Museum and I was thinking, why is it so dark and dingy down here? But yeah, no, I was going to say that we really do need to reclaim the narrative from these charlatans and these self-proclaimed experts on African matters, because especially for young children, because I'm always thinking with my mother hat on, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and just trying to undo some of the things that I had a really big identity crisis growing up. Again, other Africans didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't want to. I was Portuguese, apparently, self-proclaimed, but they didn't really want me. When I found out, it was a whole mess, to be honest. So always thinking from their hat, and I'm just thinking, media and reclaiming these narratives. I was doing some research. I was trying to find some cartoons from back home to show the girls, and I was really disappointed. I could only find a handful of them, and it was really disheartening because we have so much talent, so much creatives, and we're doing amazing things, and just how we're always used outside of the mainland, but back home we really, things need to be better. And my other point was just those Africans on the mainland to just cut us a bit of slack, in terms of our names, and in terms of when we're trying, please, when we get on the airport, it's not about identifying us as, Africans from there, and it's driving another wedge between us, especially when we're trying to identify so much with back home. I mean, this is a challenge in and of itself. Like my parents' cuss mix, my Portuguese is so horrendous in terms of, because of my accent now, the British one, plus my voice and the timbre of it, that my Portuguese just sounds way out of work, and they always cuss me. And in my eyes, I'm like, listen, I left there when I was 8 months old. I'm trying to stay connected. Okay, we don't know the tribal languages, another debate for another day. But just when we are making an effort in it, and not like these charlatans and just self-proclaimed, and we're closer to that. Like I said, I left when I was 8 months old. My 2 older brothers were born there. So we're close. We still know where we're from. We can still go. My mom can go back to her childhood home, right? Just cut us some slack and let it not be more divisive. I know it's complicated. I'm aware of that. And again, this whole, you don't want to feel like at the bottom. Someone's got to be beneath you. Punch downwards. But just cut us some slack, especially as we're growing and we're trying to reconnect. Yeah. And at times, for me anyway, of the parents who were just like, you know what? Let's just assimilate you into this culture, better upbringing, better education, things of that nature. We're now trying to go back and like, no, we are from this place, and it's only in my 20s that I was like, no, I'm Angolan, and I need to find out more about my culture. And I'm so happy that Carla mentioned us in natives. I'm like, we often get forgotten about. And again, it's a big continent, and I think with time, each country, and I think each thing will have their time.
It's something that definitely, like, that's why I said Africans, it has to be reciprocal across the board, across the pond, because you can't make me, I'm not at home in the UK, I'm not English. If I go anywhere else, they make me feel, yeah, I know I'm not from here. So when I go back home, please take it easy. Do you get what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to, I'm back home. Like, just give me some tips, so we really need that system where Africans we're for each other. We're around the world, we're protected. There's no division. When Caribbeans have done that, and I've been made aware, when African Americans have done that, and I've seen comment when even obviously like within Africa, xenophobia and stuff. The heartbreak is just of ignorance. Like, do you know how ignorant you are? Do you get what I mean? Like, you are me. Like, I fear for the pride. It's the pride that you do not have. It's not that I feel shame. It's the pride that you're lacking out of because you don't know yourself. And that identity, and if you don't get that racial esteem, you're just furthering their work. You know, like we said, it's a journey for all of us. So even try sometimes like using African first or identifying by your Nigerian British, you know, and when, like, for example, I put on, if you next time fill in a form, just check the hesitations and then be like, oh, what is that? You know, and just dig deeper, because those feelings are not just there. They're not just there from nowhere. When my niece, for example, we gave her fruits to go to school. She was 3 at the time. She came back home with the banana and said she didn't want to open the banana and eat it in front of people. She didn't know why. She just knew she didn't want to eat a banana in front of people. And I knew what that was. You understand? Because I know what the microaggressions are attached to, you know. But again, it's not even explaining the ignorance that comes outside. Fill them with pride. And that's why, to this day, one of my favorite songs, like, is Whitney Houston, Greatest Love of All, when she says, teach the children, give them a sense of pride. Because, like, we see adults that don't have pride and how self-deprecating it is, you know? So we need to do better for ourselves and also the next generation. And specifically, that's one reason why I started Proud African Heritage, because I didn't only want to start with learning about Nigeria only as Africa. And even doing it, just the little products that I've created, I'm like, Africa is huge. There's a wealth. That's why in the numbers, I was just like, let me just do 1 to 10. And if you want to carry on, you would do that individually, you know. But from that, I've been able to see and like the landmarks to the food, to the just different things that, so it's something that we definitely have to, you know, we didn't get taught in school. Also, it's not their, English people aren't going to tell you about yourselves. You get, I mean, it's not in their interest. So it's something that we personally have to take on.
Just a funny memory that you reminded me of when you mentioned the banana thing. And my partner and I were at the co-op, and there was some watermelon ice lollies, and he was just like, oh, I want to buy them. I want them for myself. He's white, and I was just like, not with me, you're not. And I was just like, I'm not standing at the counter. And it was in like, I think it was in like a really, really just the air in this area just felt racist. Like, I've never been in an area where it's just like, it felt all the way around. So then I was just like, nah, not with me. And to be honest, I love watermelon. I don't have any racial connotations to it, but just within this context, no, I'm not giving you the pleasure of a little chuckle and a little no, none of that. And I think for me, that is a side where, that is a part of our identity where you have these things that at any moment you can feel triggered by the whole racial esteem thing in ways that other people are not, absolutely are not. And it's even when you have those moments, it's the shame that goes along with the, oh, why do I feel that way? I shouldn't feel that way. I should just feel proud. But I think it's being kind to ourselves and understanding that we are going through this system, and it literally attacks you from the inside out. So the fact that we can even recognize that that's going on is something to just applaud yourself on, number one, and just let yourself go through those motions. And one day you'll get to the point where it's just like, you look dead in the eye, and if it was today, I'm buying it. I don't care if you have your little chuckle or whatever, I'm having my ice lollies. But I think it's also a thing where now that I'm starting to cook more as well, I don't know about anybody else, but there's even a trepidation when it comes to cooking your like traditional foods. But there's also a pride when you master it. There's a real pride when you master it. But it's also like finding out the different cultures of Africa and how many of us share recipes. Even like when you look deep Caribbean restaurant recipes that are not in their main sort of like cafes and whatever. Deep African roots, like you can see the parallels.
Sorry, just to correct, even Aki and Sophie, people don't know that Aki is from Ghana.
Yeah.
So there's Aki trees in Ghana.
we might not be, not every generation is going to fix it totally, but I think the most important thing is just building those bridges.
Yeah.
So like Helena was saying, just be like, that's my main thing with mainland Africans. I know that you might perceive that we have some privilege over here, and it's not even just a perception. We do. Like having lived in a Nigerian boarding school, that thing changes you real quick, because your survival instinct kicks in quick when you have to. There's no sort of there's no feeling of luxury, or like a luxurious safety net, and that's what a lot of people are running to. And no matter how bad it is here, there's still a feeling of there being a safety net and an element of a luxury of something will catch you. And I think that is something that we need to recreate back home. It's just that safety net that you can come here and rest, that not everything has to be about survival and and this sort of pace. But also, my last point is just, about those bridges that we can connect. So whether it's that, like what Debbie's doing with Proud African Heritage, of just you learning just a few numbers, seeing what foods are existing in your culture, in the Caribbean, in South America, in Africa, wherever you are, in America, but also understanding that it connects you to something great, and then using that to then research further. For myself, I really want people to know the names and the thought process of people who have really led us forward, because there's a whole lineage.
Sankofa is real, like look back of where we come from, because that will give us the blueprint of going forward. You understand? One thing I wanted to raise as well in terms of our identity, with us obviously full-blooded Africans, full-blooded Africans, we know how we identify. But Akala was doing a live the other day, and someone asked about, is it right for mixed race people to identify, why can they identify as black and not as white? And this is what he said. I went back and wrote it down, because I was just like, isn't it, John? He explained it perfectly. He said, in answer to that question, race is political, not biological. He said, and affirming your, I know, I love everything he says. I'm like, come on. But affirming your blackness is affirming a loyalty to justice, and affirming justice in itself. He said, revolutionary Black nationalism isn't about hating others. It's about, again, affirming justice and indirect opposition to the injustice that were done to African people and Black people. And he said, mulatto nationalism has never achieved anything. If anything, it only achieved you owning a bit more slaves or whatever. And he said that white supremacy still undermines you, because white supremacy undermines anything other than pure. So you're not good enough to call yourself white, so you might as well stand against injustice. And he said, even by professing I am mixed, is you saying I am not black and I'm not one of them. And that is, so he said, it's a political stance that him personally, as people ask him as a mix, that's why he needs to say I am black and he's not white. You understand? Because obviously he said it goes without saying that he's not full-blooded African, because you can see that, but at the same time, you have to affirm, your solidarity. And that's the age we are in now. Affirm your solidarity or step off.
So everybody who knows, whenever I talk about blackness, the first thing I always say is that thing that is political, which is where for me, I've really come to thoroughly, deeply dislike that term BAME, because Asian people were classed as black when they first got to this country, and you ran away from that, and you made sure that people classed you as Asian, and that was so that you wouldn't be classed with the African. That is the reason why the first thing that they're always talking about, and I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with the way that Asian people have community organized to get into the spaces that they're in. However, when you look at what they have done in terms of what they identify with, when Boris Johnson said, I have the most diverse cabinet at the moment, and he pointed to Priti Patel and the one that's the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and one other Asian person. I was just like, look at that. That is all Asian people, and you lot have allowed yourself to align with the most bigoted, racist sort of system of whiteness, but you still want to sort of claim some sort of ethnicity, proximity to Black people. Don't do it. And I think that is where we need to say Blackness is political, African is about your identity. And in truth, trace anybody's bloodline far enough, it links to Africa. And that is the reason why you even see that the major thing that they are always trying to get people to eradicate is melanin, because melanin is deepest where? In Africa. Even when you look at India, you've got Indians that are darker than every single person on this panel, and they treat them the worst. Same thing with Asia. So it's really melanin and Africa that they are trying to get you to run away from. Even when you look at white people, the first thing that you're always trying to do, bleach your hair blonde, run away to blue eyes, get rid of the frizz in your hair. That's just the African in you. You know what I mean? So yeah, a color. Yes, that is the standard. And I don't think there's anything wrong with people acknowledging that they're biracial, but I think it's more to the point where people need to acknowledge that there is a political element to saying that you are Black.
Because you have the biracial that is like, I'm biracial, not Black.
Yes.
You do not want any.
Yes, you are saying it to. You're saying it to put distance between you and Africa.
Yeah. So the proximity to Africa, whether you like it, is there. Better you accept it and get to know yourself.
So yeah, that BAM, BAM, whatever you want to call it, that whole organization, it's so stupid to me, because like I don't know how blatant or how more blatant it could be that they're literally just trying to put all of us into one box and trying to solve the issue when that is impossible. You wouldn't put someone, let's say in the court of law, you wouldn't try and resolve a case of a sexual assault case, a murder case, a manslaughter case, a money laundering case. You wouldn't try and solve that in one go. So why the heck are you trying to now put all these races and ethnicities together to try and solve their problems? Like, it makes no sense to me. And in addition to that, what Ellie said about certain Asian countries, their level of hatred against Black people, I think, is even worse than your most racist white supremacists. Like Priti Patel, my God, that is the devil walking in an Asian body. Wow, her one is so deep. Someone said that she would even deport her grandparents. that's how internal her own self-hatred is, and that's why for me, when it comes to like Asians and all that, cool, you might have had your fair share of like brutalities and racism in the past, but in those moments, Black people wanted to stand with you, and we did. But if you flip the script, you would these same Asians that we're fighting for, they would be fighting against us. One example, and I shared this with Debbie earlier today. One example in I think it was in January or February, when the whole Corona thing with China was happening, and people were boycotting Chinese businesses, Chinese food joints, products from China, blah blah blah. And on Twitter and online, everyone was in solidarity with the Chinese community. And guess who was at the forefront of that? The Black community, as always, putting our backs on the line for people that would not do the same for us. I said, I'm not supporting anybody. Even me, I started eating Chinese from like December up until, I think the first time I ordered Chinese this year was the ending of May, after I finished my this academic year. But I told her, I said, please don't buy it, because I said, if the shoe is on the other foot, these men will throw us under the bus so quickly we won't even be able to ask for help. And lo and behold, when Wuhan was declared corona-free, the same Chinese people we were fighting for, the same Asians we were fighting for, they threw it back and they started to evict Africans from hotels, hostels, motels, businesses. They started to evict Africans and say, oh, no, we're scared that you guys are bringing the virus. How much of a slap in the face is that? Something that came from your own country, you're saying that other people are bringing it back. Please. And the thing is that everyone online was like, oh, but we were standing with you, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost as if Black people, we don't learn from our history. These guys have never, had our backs. And that picture of the black guy carrying the man. As much as that, the only reason with me, I'm torn with that because for one, we showed the media that look, it is not us that's causing the violence, but on the flip side, we're always carrying our oppressors. We're always giving our oppressors
Of nature. Mm-hmm.
It's so annoying because when is that gonna change? That whole forgiveness thing. Like I thought in Black America, like these guys, they're so quick to forgive. And I said, mate, when you're too quick to forgive, you don't address the trauma that you've gone through in that situation. If I'm just ready to forgive, I forgive you for doing this, I forgive you for doing this, I forgive you for doing this. Mate, there's a level of trauma that's gonna just keep on building up and building up and building up because you haven't addressed the trauma. You haven't even allowed yourself to grieve, and you're already forgiving. So that whole BAME whatever, I do not rap with it at all because
right.
it's a similar notion as that all lives matter rubbish.
It's just an avoidance of saying black.
The root of it is your issues of everything that comes out of Africa. All right.
They like to take over the motion and take it to their own thing. Acronym POC, they all need to be thrown in the bin.
Yeah, POC.
That people of color rubbish.
Yeah.
Rubbish.
Yeah, with the BAME thing, I think it's their buzzword. It's again, it's all encompassing: black, Asian, minority, ethnic. So it's the only people that it avoids is white people.
Mm.
Apparently, it's inclusive of Jewish people, it's inclusive of Polish community, it's inclusive of everyone apart from Caucasian whites. But yeah, they draw you into it. Because I remember doing my book and just sending out the emails. I actually felt compelled to use it as a tick word for them, especially because when I was applying for some of these, submitting proposals, some of these publishers, you do quick research on them, what kind of books they've published, who be on the staff, and everyone was of colour. And because I know it's their acronym, it's their way of pretend, just a tick box. Who said it recently? Someone said, you know what, on application forms, put that you are, non-heterosexual. Put that you're of a certain, because they just want to now.
Yeah.
Someone who first want to roll in this, positive discrimination, which I don't believe in at all. I don't like that at all. Take me in for my merits, not because you need a black woman for someone, and then you're having me, then you're still treating me like I ain't. Please. That's another issue. But yeah, I just felt like it was their acronym, so I wanted to use their term. I know what you guys are thinking. Let me show that I'm clued up. I'm clued up with it, and it's just problematic. It's just problematic. So BAME, and I remember we were doing a talk panel on King's College, and we're like, yeah, BAME is for them. It's their way of saying, look, we've got a quota. Use the magic word to get you in the door. We understand BAME this, BAME this, and like Ellie said, it is unacceptable because the Asians tried so hard to not be on our, in the same vein as us, let alone, just to be lumped together. This whole, all-encompassing acronym is just problematic. Mm-hmm. But again, even me just wondering, wow, again, like you're saying, checking yourself.
Yeah.
No, what's going on? Why am I trying to use what is divisive?
Right.
Portrayed as non-divisive.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not going to do that. This book is about two, British-born African girls.
Yeah, whatever we want to call ourselves, right? Yeah. Why can't you address Africans and we stand alone? Address what you've done to Africa. Address only the blacks. Why we are not attached to anyone else, because when you came to Africa, you only came to get the Africans. You didn't come and get the BAME from Africans. It is from Africa. We're alone in this. So now we're standing up for justice. Why is our justice tied into what you're doing for the Asians and the whatever ethnicities people are? Because when you're ready to, you shit on us too. Right? So let everybody address Africa and Africans and black people. Let us stand alone and give us our this is for us. Do you get what I mean? There's nothing that we can just have for us. It's always got to be attached to, who else are you including? Why do we have to include anybody when no one else has fought to include us? Why? It's not fair. It's not fair and it's not right. Like, address Africa, respect Africans as we are and who we are, respect everything that comes out of Africa, our food, our hair, our heritage, our everything, our skin, appreciate every factor of us. Then we'll see how, we'll see about allyship and inclusion and whatnot on our terms. But don't say, oh, I can't accept you unless everybody else is included. Because what happens then is that you put everyone before me and then you never get to address Africa.
Yeah, my one is quick. Just to literally touch on what Debbie said about the whole inclusion thing. It's really annoying because if you even look at one of the the great tragedies of modern history, as history, quote unquote, educational history has taught us, the Holocaust. Literally, it wasn't until I researched it myself that I found out that it wasn't just, your typical, not even typical, because they're not the real Jews. Your whitewashed Jews that were part of the Holocaust. That was that there were blacks involved in there. That there were homosexuals that were involved in that. And it wasn't until I researched that myself, even being taught that in history, they only taught that it was your Caucasian-looking Jews that were thrown into gas chambers and thrown in concentration camps. So that whole thing about inclusion, please, just miss me with that, because even in your great tragedy of the Holocaust, you still don't want to include black people suffering or anybody else's suffering for that matter. So don't try and now throw us all into one bubble and try and solve our problems. And also, that whole inclusion thing for me doesn't work, because if these issues that you, and I'm talking in particular to like Asian communities, etc., if these issues that you feel so strongly about to speak about now, when we're voicing our opinions, where was your own voice before we started to voice our own strugglings and sufferings?
Right.
Why couldn't you speak about this before? Why did it have to take us to voice out our own tragedies and our feelings of aggression and frustration for you to come and speak about yours? It makes no sense.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and then it just, the authenticity, if you will, is completely eradicated, because if it takes me, if it takes for you to speak about your trauma, if it takes me to have to speak about my own, then clearly your situation wasn't as traumatic because you've been living with it. So you can keep on living with it, darling. I'm so sorry. You can keep on living with it. Don't speak up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, this is just my last one quickly on Pelena's point about taking away your ethnicity. So I saw this tweet the other day, but I was quickly finding it to pull it up. And so someone, the original person, tweeted, "Take ethnicity off of job applications if we all equal." And then someone quote tweeted it and said, "Funny story. So at my job, we do, and we also redact name and school to address that bias. Since that practice, Black women have consistently either made it to the final round or been hired." Funny how that works. And from studies, we've seen that Black women, by a large margin, are the most educated people on the earth. Like, it's not even up for discussion. Like, in comparison to their male counterparts, as in terms of Black and other races, Black women are the most educated, and it's annoying, and it's just frustrating that, as we were talking about before, that whole issue of intellect and education in terms of African people is seen as that we're the illiterates. Hold on, if you even go back to history, look at the history books. We were the most educated, mate. Look at the Moors. We had to come and teach you, man, about education. When you guys had what, like 1 or 2 universities, and then the Moors in our own, we had about 8 or much more. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just wanted to just quickly say that way. Yeah.
No, it's very important, and just going off your point before I come back to Ellie, that there are people, get it right, that there are people, white, Asian, whoever you are, who speak out about Black issues and are not asking to be included. They're like, this is injustice. Point blank, I'm going to sleep. Like, you speak out for injustice for these people so that the world can be a better place for everyone. Nothing's threatening your position. So why you want to include yourself and make yourself centered is just egotistical and it's self-serving.
When it comes to that sort of label of BAME, within different communities you've got different issues, and I think that for me is the major reason why I'm just like, no, you can't use this sort of as a catch-all for non-white, because at the same time there are people within the Asian community who are willing to align themselves with whiteness, align themselves with capitalism, to the detriment of their own communities and to the detriment of other non-white communities, and use them as a stepping stool to get closer to whiteness. And that is the reason why you can't use this as a catch-all term. It was actually from this Asian activist that I actually found out that in the 80s, Asian people were still classed as black. And when you see how they've organized, not every Asian person is rich, but within your community, you've done enough to sort of make sure that the face of you guys is really as white as possible. And somebody pointed out with, is her name Priyanka? I don't want to get her name wrong, but she's a Bollywood actress, and she was like, Black Lives Matter. And then somebody was just like, how do you say Black Lives Matter, but at the same time sell bleaching cream? Because that's what she does to within her own community. And I think there's a thing where you can be inspired by Black people and our movements, and then take it and represent it in your community. So there's a lot of dark-skinned Asian people who were inspired by the whole dark skin is beautiful and all that sort of thing that our community has done, and have taken it into their community to have that conversation over there. You don't need to come into our spaces. Because I saw one Asian woman in this discussion, she stood up and was just like, I feel like when we're talking about Black issues, I don't get spoken enough about as a dark-skinned Asian woman. And rightly so, the people on the panel were just like, well, it's because it's not for you, love. You know, this is going on in your community. Go talk about it there, you know, go spearhead it there, get your inspiration here, go take it there. And I think that for me is the point where allyship is important, because all of these, I was researching a little bit with this whole Winston Churchill situation, the way that they systematically starved Indian people, I can't understand how you could ever have an Asian Tory. I really don't, because they did exactly the same thing in India that they did in Ireland, where you systematically starved millions of people for economic gain and because you hated these people. So there is, for me, when it comes to thinking about solutions, one of the biggest solutions for me when it comes to getting in contact with your racial esteem is socialism, because capitalism is so intertwined with whiteness. Like, whiteness came out of socialism. It was an excuse in order to dehumanize and brutalize people. So if you think that you can somehow have your racial esteem at a high level while at the same time being a capitalist, that one is going to have to give. It really will. And it will always be the African in you that gives way to the capitalist in you, if that is what you prioritize. So I think people really understanding what socialism is at a deep level, and understanding what Pan-Africanism is and keying into that, I think that is the solution for me to really getting in touch with racial esteem.
That was a really, really good point. Definitely. I feel that also in terms of, like we touched on before, in terms of there was a conversation I was having earlier before, and someone was saying that, you know, she is very, she's very sensitive when people are just easy to call, like, oh, that's racist, oh, that's racist, oh, that's racist. So I just basically said that, look, racism, it is that much in society. You see, as much as you see the pavement, racism is literally in the fabric of everywhere we turn. We walk out of the door, especially as Black women, we know it's about to slap us in the face, whether that's at the store, whether that's at the bus stop, whether that's in the supermarket. Do you get what I mean? So that's not something that we can't deny. It is around, especially where we live. But it's not something that deters us from our destiny and what our purpose is and what we're doing. But it is important for us to notice the systematic racism and the institutional racism as well, and address it when we can, and also not let it affect our progress, because we were talking about even in education system, for example, me being in school where I was the highest performer in maths all throughout from my entry to the end of secondary school, but they put me in and they would not move me. They left me in intermediate set where the highest I could get was a B, when they should have moved me into higher, and children that were performing lower than me were getting moved into higher, where they could achieve A's, even if it was the bottom A that you could get. But my one was capped, and obviously those are the grades that will go on for future applications. So from noticing things like that, different things where you know that, okay, if for example, your daughter or your little cousin or your niece or nephew is going for a job interview and she's wondering how she should wear her hair for the interview, you already know that, okay, I can speak some confidence here because I know what she's going to face, so those things, we shouldn't be afraid to confront it, because us not talking about it and just getting on with things as we've always done hasn't done us any favors either. So confront these issues. You see now that everyone speaking out, Misha B, about different platforms that they've been on and what they've experienced. It's important because those that were coming behind you are also experiencing these things. What I think is funny though is people like Leona Lewis, that when you were on those platforms, people did not want to mention the black in you, as if we could not see it. They were like, no, she's so ambiguous. Ambiguous was the word they gave her. And it was like, this girl is black, she's mixed race. You get what I mean? And they would not say that. They wanted to distance her from black so much. But now she wants to come out and say what she experienced. Of course, no, we were telling you, you are African. That is what they don't like about you. The people that the industry makes you put your white parent as your front face.
One thing I really like of what's going on online now is the breaking down of stereotypes. That whole stereotype, I think it's a stereotype where it's just like, oh, yeah, black women are strong-headed, they're ferocious, they're
angry.
Enough is enough. As in, because that whole notion of, oh, black women are strong, it has affected black women negatively.
That's a whole nother topic. That's another week. We're coming on to that.
So it's affected black women negatively because in the healthcare system, it has ridiculously affected black women. Not just black people, black women, because there was someone released a video, and she's a medical student. She said that they did a survey, and they said, oh, how many of you think that black women experience the same level of pain? 50% of the medical students said that they don't believe that black women, I think it was either black people or black women, don't experience the same level of pain.
Pain, right.
We're flipping humans as well. Like, what is going on? And I'm just so glad that whole notion of, they're strong, blah, 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 that it's being torn down because it has brought about more detriment than it has positive benefits. And I'm so glad that it's just being eradicated right now.
No, it's important. So we need to, part of the solutions and actions and recovery is dissecting and dispelling all these things that we've masked in comedy, in survival or whatever, or just, oh, that's how black people do things. We need to dispel everything, literally deprogram ourselves. When we go, they say debriefing. We really need to do that. We really need to do that and detox ourselves of the programming that has been pummeled into us. We need an all-round world link for a support system for every single African worldwide. And we need other people that, when we talk about allyship, which is another discussion as well, when we talk of allies, respect Africa in its own standing, address the injustices and the inhumanities to African people. And that's the only conversation we're having.
Yeah, I think for me, I always have, in terms of rounding up, is just, so for the solutions, kids, what could I do differently if I could go back and change my upbringing? And as an African here in the UK, that's what I use to measure what I do with my children. So I think it's about equipping them with the next generation under us. We're getting enlightened, we're getting knowledge, information age, we're able to have these things at our fingertips. And it's about now making sure that we can learn from the things like the gaps in our parents and our birth, and then their knowledge, to really ensure our kids can be really just motivated, just they don't know anything different. I was gonna say my girls don't know anything different. They've had racist incidents already. They don't know what's happening. They just feel these girls are weirdos and they didn't think it was to do with their skin. At a play center, and some of the girls were making like inappropriate sounds, monkey related sounds, and just saying. So if you know, when you parents, we got ears and we hear whispers, whatever. To all credit, the mums found out and just said, "I'm so sorry," and took the girls straight home. But the girls just thought, "Oh, it's because they just don't want to play and whatever." But they're so
you
confident
know what that is, right?
themselves. They don't know what that is. I'm so, we've just so brought a cocoon around them. And what I forgot to mention before is just black people. Certain ignorant ones, Africans and black people, just saying silly stuff like to me, "Oh, you're racist. Why have they only got black this, black that, black this, black that?" And I'm like,
education. I mean,
education and just
necessary.
Reaffirming their identity. And I think we forget how powerful the media is. Look how much the media influences us as adults, to be honest with us. Come on. How much more these kids, that we forget the combination of audio and visual is key. So for me, I don't think we're doing enough.
Right.
Because for me, it's the cartoons that need, the books are ours. We can self-publish any day. But the cartoons mean someone needs to invest, put money and whatever, So for me, that's what I feel like is my mission to change the world is black out of Africa. I'm not talking about American ones. They've had talking about Mike Tyson, for goodness sake. I'm talking about straight from Africa that tell our narratives that this debunk the whole mud hearts and the whole it's peak out there, but just really emphasize the beauty, the thing of Africa is what we need. So for me, it's the cartoons that needs to change up.
Yes, definitely. The reason why we need to attack it at the root is because now I'm seeing so many negative things now coming from the diaspora back home, and they're coming with a vengeance. Like the N-word is found itself in Africa and it's made itself comfortable. Like, how are Africans at home calling themselves something that was derogatory in the diaspora? Secondly, when we talk about, recognizing the mistakes of our elders and stuff. But if you guys see online, there's a culture of criticizing and demonizing African parents and elders. And it's just like, oh, our parents traumatized us so much. Oh, there's no love in the African home. Unless we're going to go back and talk about the trauma our parents went through and their parents, and you can't come out here and tell it like, if they were doing, I understand if we're going to talk about, abuse in households and whatnot, but we're not going to just say, oh, everything was wrong and it was traumatic. We can sift through it and, like we say, dissect, pick out the bits that were good, learn from it and choose what we carry on. Because right now, in the way the world is, we have foresight, we have hindsight, so we need to take it to the task. Again, our main aim of discussing here is our solutions, actions, strategies and recoveries as a community. And we hope that these conversations will not end here and actions will follow these videos.